Друзья, приветствую. На связи Евгений Романенко. Цифровая эпоха, Web 3.0. Поставили перед нами, вернее, Web 2.0 и переход к Web 3.0, поставили кучу вопросов, связанных с цифровой личностью, с цифровой идентичностью. Мы понимаем, что скандалы, связанные с нашими персональными данными, это часть проблемы, она уже всех затрагивает. Какие тренды надо понимать в этом направлении нам дает блокчейн. Сегодня со мной на связи Кайл, вице-президент по маркетингу Инфопульс, и мы обсудим эти вопросы с ним крупными мазками. Я буду говорить по-английски, потому что Ян будет выступать в Киеве 25 марта по-английски, и мы так точнее передадим смыслы. Ян, thanks for joining me. And the first question to you is, how would you describe the current situation in the issue of digital identity, personal identity, and the digital epoch? What are the current problems and the main challenges in this area?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much for having me today and giving a short heads up about what is going to be presented 25th. So when we speak about digital identity, let's first of all clarify what is digital identity, right? Digital identities are representing individuals' identity through digital means, right? It's more or less the same that you had before in a paper way, now just in a digital way. So, but when we go the way of digital transformation, we most likely will face certain issues and certain risks and certain problems that possible solutions in the past tried to solve, maybe did not, and we will need to look how we can solve them in future. So let's jump into it, and with maybe three, four chapters, short chapters, try to identify the problems. First of all, let's start with some historical aspect, right? Where digital identities are coming from. In the very beginning, maybe something like 15, 20 years ago, we already had the first versions of digital identities. There were siloed identities. When you think about going into a shop and having your card, your membership card for the shop, or thinking about your identity, your RFID card, for instance, to go into the office and identify yourself, or open access to your computer was also mostly already done with RFID cards. Or just let's have a look how governments are providing identities over the last 10, 15 years. But as the name said, siloed identities, they were siloed, they were not integrated. So you had a lot of these digital identities, which most likely brought a lot of friction. Then over the time, we already saw the first federated identity. So we already had the first approach, let's say, so of a user-centric approach. They already have been integrated. So you have one identity that you can use in a shop, you can use against or with the government activities, and you can also use it within your company. But as clear, those federated identities were still or are still centralized, right? With all the problems coming with it. So you are not in the driver's seat when it comes to your identity. Beside this historical aspect, we have general problems with digital identities, right? We later in the presentation on 25th, I will also have a diagram with me. There's the so-called digital identity pyramid, right? And we are facing here problems on each phase in the pyramid, starting with the standard, right? And the standards, lack of coordination and consistency when it comes about standard. Different companies, different providers have different standards. Then the next, when it comes to identities are connected to attributes. Yeah, so you need to collect attributes, and the attribute collection was or is mostly inaccurate or different. A different provider collects different attributes. Then we are facing the next level, an inaccurate and weak authentication, followed by insecure exchange of the attributes, and then finally the complex authorization rules. And all this is actually, how to say, it is actually limiting competition and consumer choice. And this brings me to the last kind of examples of what problems we are facing. But let me first start with some facts. Human rights, right? We have more even, 1.1 billion people that have no legal identity at the moment. We are facing legislation and regulations, just one keyword, GDPR. We are facing jurisdictions like, for instance, China or India, which are trying to come up with big, meager digital identity projects that are violating best practices. They are abusing, and they give possibility to profiling. Right, and having said this, let's also look to more other problems when it comes to proximity. Users' identity information is highly fragmented. I already said it's siloed. We have the problem of scalability. The landscape is dominated by centralized ID providers that most likely don't want to interact with others. They monopolize and they provide security risk. Yeah, the central point of failure. Privacy is an issue. GDPR, I already said, and most likely then the consent sensitive information buried in thousands of identity sealers is often distributed to other parties without owners' explicit permission or even knowledge about it, right? So I guess this gave a little look into what problems we are facing with digital identities in general.
Well, the situation looks quite sophisticated, complicated, so complex. What is the main way of solving this stack of problems, the blockchain-based way of solving these problems?
Well, yes, we are coming to a blockchain conference, but to say so, I mean, as a valid solution for these digital identity problems are so-called self-sovereign identities. But honestly, self-sovereign identities can be developed without the need of blockchain. So blockchain is just a technology, and you can use other measures to solve this problem. But the solution most likely is SSI, self-sovereign identity, right? Actually, I would even call it the killer app. Yeah, you know this phrase, the killer app, the real deal for blockchain. Because I mean, with the identity, everything starts. No matter what you do, no matter where you interact digital, if you go to the public authorities, if you buy something in a retail, if you want to provide or receive healthcare, need to share certain data. Self-sovereign identity gives you the possibility to be in the driver's seat and be responsible for the data that you have and you want to share. Self-sovereign identity has certain aspects, and there's, let's say, so the right window to make it happen. First of all, starting with the Enlightenment, right? As said, being responsible. Don't be the product. Self-sovereign identity by itself are easy to control because you are holding the identity, you are holding the attributes, the data of your identity, and you decide whom to share with. And last but not least, it also gives people the possibility to actually control the relations and the interactions. And it's actually just the start, to be honest, because the digital IDs or the self-sovereign identities is the start. It gives you the identifier. It gives you the possibility to say who you are and provides the possibility to trust. Yeah, you are no longer, let's say, so anonymous. You are a verifiable identity, and then you can use the identity actually, for instance, to sign digital documents. Yeah, that you are the author, that you have the copyright on certain documents or art or whatever you have created. So you can use your digital identity and can actually sign documents, art, whatsoever what you have created. And the third level, the most interesting, is actually when we speak about digital transformation, what digital identities gives us is the possibility of verifiable credentials. So not only that who is the owner of the document or who created the document, you can verify it, but you can actually also verify what is the document about. So is it a driver license? Is it your health certificate? interesting topic right now that you are, for instance, vaccinated or not COVID, ill on COVID. So certificates of universities that you get your diploma, whatsoever. So all these different documents that are now in a paper way, that can be fraudulent, that can be fake, that can be easily with PowerPoint redone. These possibilities no longer exist.
Well, we have got a couple of experiences in our modern life. For example, we know how the passport issued by government looks like, how we use passport. We know how to use Facebook or Gmail, logging for using Facebook or Gmail services, so on and so forth. And now we know how to use the private keys from our crypto assets. No one authorizes us to use our assets in any blockchain wallet. May you please describe how the experience of using self-sovereign identity in the Web 3.0 realm will be looking like? What will we be doing, interacting with the apps, websites, browsers, and so on and so forth? The experience.
Well, I mean, the experience is a very important problem or a very important issue, because, I mean, if the user is not happy with the service or with the way the user experience is working, he most likely will not use it. And this is what we are facing at the moment with the normal way of digital IDs. They are siloed, yeah. They are not they are within borders, yeah. So an ID, for instance, from Norway, you can't use it really in Germany or in Ukraine. And self-sovereign applications have a great potential, yeah, as they cover all problems, as they cover certain problems of all sectors and industries, from public through banking, retail, healthcare, and so on. When it comes to what is going on, yeah, if this is more or less the question that you ask, I mean, we see a lot of traction here, right? We see organizations that are joining the idea of self-sovereign identity. When I, for instance, mention the W3C consortium, which are creating, let's say, so the base, the fundament for self-sovereign identities. How to exchange information. We see, for instance, the ISO organization, which is trying to standardize how we are interacting in future. We see the DIF, the Digital Identity Foundation. We even see United Nations and governments looking into this space. We have a lot of old companies, I mean, I would call them the dinosaurs, that are into this matter, expanding, thinking about Microsoft, thinking about Oracle with their Ident 2020 activity. We see RSA, we see the R3 consortium, which are looking into it, but we also see the new economy, the new startups that are trying to tackle down the problem, whether it is Civic, whether it's Uport, whether it's Netkey, and so on. Yeah, and last but not least, I would also like to go a little bit into details, providing some examples of what institutional or organizational support those startups are getting. So, for instance, there is the Trust Over IP Foundation, which mission is to simplify and standardize how trust is established online. It will provide internet-scale solution for safe, secure, and private digital interactions between individuals, business, governments, and also things. Yeah, think about the IoT, Internet of Things. You also need to identify and secure the communication between devices. It was established in May 2020 and is hosted by the Linux Foundation. You also see other European or country-related directions, for instance, with EBSI, EBSI, the European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, which mission is to create a network of decentralized nodes across Europe. So the European blockchain infrastructure, with providing reusable software specification and service to support adoption by public administration, business, and citizens. And another example, more local, would be, for instance, Finni. I mean, Infopulse is a daughter company of Tietoevry, which is the biggest Nordic IT provider. And in Finland, they are working on Finni, which is the Finnish answer, a verifiable data network for individual organizations and things. I hope this answered a little bit your questions.
Well, thank you. And finally, you will be speaking at Kiev on 21st of March at the Blockchain conference, and your topic
if they let me out here of Brazil next Monday, yes, I will be.
Okay. Your topic will be entitled in Russian. You understand Russian. Цифровая личность. Кто владеет вашей идентичностью, чего ожидать в будущем. May you briefly mention the key points of your speech and why should we care? Why should people come and listen to you personally?
I mean, the spectre is broad. As you hear me talking, I'm not very complicated talking. I'm trying to address picking up all kind of people, from technical up to non-technical people. So I will give a very good intro about what are identities, how we are using identities. I will go deeper and not just with 5 minutes into the problems that we are facing with the current way of identities. I will give a look up into what solutions we have to solve the problem. I will also give some market numbers, let me look it up for a moment. Some market numbers that, for instance, self-surveilled identity revenue in 2024 will hit the billion dollar level. So this is a potpourri for everyone who is interested in blockchain, because most likely I'm an enthusiast of this technology, and I believe that this movement can help to get the power back to the people. It gives you some insights about what is going on, and maybe also some advices where to look to. I will not give any investment advice, that's for sure, but I will give some advices where to look to if you are developing your own projects, for instance, and you don't want to do your own identity solutions. I will give answers if you are just a user, where to look to and where to maybe apply to and reserve your identity. And I will also have a little look into what are the delicate outlook for our future solving this human problem in general.
Well, thank you very much for a brilliant explanation and deep diving on this topic. Дамы и господа, блокчейн — это не только про деньги, это еще про цифровую идентичность, она будет меняться, это касается каждого, это очевидно. Поэтому 25 марта в Киеве на блокчейн биткоин конференс Киев Smile Expo Кайл, вы сможете лично его еще раз послушать и понять, куда же движется мир, что будет с нашей цифровой идентичностью. Self-sovereign identity — это уже наша реальность. Встречаемся в Киеве 25 марта. Кайл, Евгений Романенко. Пока.
Спасибо, Женя. Буду рад вас всех встретиться в Киеве 25-го. До свидания.